Squid Game, the story behind the show. Part 1, a story nobody wanted. In South Korea, there was a man named Hwang Dong-hyuk. He was a film director and a writer. He had already made some movies before. But he was not rich. He had to take care of his mother and grandmother. Life was hard. Sometimes, he didn't even have enough money to eat. One day, in 2008, Hwang had a new idea. He wanted to write a story about poor people playing a strange game. In the game, they could win a lot of money. But the game was very dangerous. If they lost, they would die. Only one person could win. That person would get all the money. The story was not about real games. It was about real life. Hwang wanted to show how money controls people. He wanted to ask a big question. What will people do when they have no money and no hope? He finished writing the script in 2009. He gave it to many film studios. He thought they would like it. But everyone said no. Some said the story was too strange. Others said it was too violent. Some said people would never watch something like this. Hwang was sad. He worked hard on this story, but nobody wanted it. He stopped writing for a while. He had to sell his laptop for money. He gave up on the idea for many years. But he still believed in his story. Years later, something changed. In 2019, Netflix was looking for new shows from South Korea. They wanted to make Korean stories for people all over the world. Hwang showed them his old script. This time, someone said yes. Netflix liked the idea. They thought it was different and powerful. They gave Hwang money to make the show. Hwang was finally able to tell his story. The name of the show was Squid Game. Why Squid Game? It's a real game that Korean children used to play in the 1970s and 1980s. Kids draw a shape on the ground. The shape looks like a squid. Then they try to push each other outside the lines. The game is simple. But it's also physical and rough. The final game in the show uses this real childhood game. Hwang said the name, Squid Game, was perfect. It sounds fun and innocent. But in the show, it becomes deadly. This contrast was very important for him. To make a good show, Hwang needed great actors. Lee Young-jae played the main character, Song Jae-hun. He is a kind man, but he has many problems. He doesn't have money. He has a sick mother. He wants to take care of his daughter. People liked his story. They could understand him. Young Ho-yeon played Kang Se-byok, a young woman from North Korea. This was her first time acting. Before that, she was a fashion model. But she worked very hard. People all over the world loved her. Oh Young-soo played the old man, player 001. He gave a deep, emotional performance. He became very popular and even won an international acting award. There were many other strong actors too. Each character had a reason to be in the game. Some were in debt. Some were sick. Some just had no other choice. Viewers felt sorry for them. The show made people think. What would I do if I were in their place? A difficult time to film. Filming started in 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic. It was not easy. The crew had to wear masks. Everyone had to take tests. The rules were very strict. But the team worked hard. They built real sets. Hwang didn't want to use too many computer effects. He wanted everything to feel real. Here are some interesting facts about the filming. The big doll in red light, green light was real. It was more than 3 meters tall. It had moving eyes that could catch the players. The scary maze of colorful stairs was built using real paint and walls. It was like walking through a dream. The style was inspired by the artist M.C. Escher, who drew stairs that go nowhere. For the glass bridge game, actors had to walk on glass platforms. Some platforms were made of real glass. Others were made of safe plastic. But even knowing that, the actors felt scared. The crew laughed about it later. One actor said, "Even though I knew I wouldn't fall, I still froze." Hwang worked very hard. He wrote and directed every single episode. He did not sleep much. He was very stressed. In an interview, he said he lost 6 teeth because of stress during filming. But he also said, "This is the story I always wanted to tell. And now I can." After many months of hard work, the show was ready. Squid Game came out on Netflix in September 2021. At first, it was just another Korean drama. But then, something amazing happened. People started talking about it. Then more people watched. Then even more. In just a few weeks, Squid Game became the most watched show in Netflix history. More than 142 million people watched it in the first month. Nobody expected that, not even Hwang. Part 2, the show that shocked the world. When Squid Game came out in September 2021, nobody knew it was going to be so big. At first, just a few people started watching. Some in South Korea, a few in Japan. But then, little by little, people in other countries began to talk about it too. In only a few weeks, it felt like the whole world was watching. From the United States to Brazil, from France to India, everyone was asking the same question: have you seen Squid Game? In just 1 month, it became the most watched show in Netflix history. More than 140 million people saw it in those first few weeks. That number is hard to believe. More people watched Squid Game than live in most countries. It was something special, something different. So why did people love it so much? Well, the story was simple, but it touched something deep inside. It was about people with big problems, people in debt, people who were poor, people who felt forgotten. They were all playing a game to win money. But the cost was their lives. It was scary, but it was also very real. Viewers could feel the fear, the hope, and the pain of the characters. And maybe they saw a little of themselves in those players too. Even the games were easy to follow. They were games that many people had played when they were children, like red light, green light, or tug of war. You didn't have to know Korean to understand what was happening. You could just watch and feel the tension grow. And of course, the show looked different. The colors were bright, the stairs were pink and yellow, the playground was huge, the costumes were bold. But even with those cheerful colors, the feeling was dark and heavy. It was like watching a dream, or maybe a nightmare. After people started watching, they began talking. They told their friends, they posted online, they made videos. And suddenly, Squid Game was everywhere. On TikTok, people acted out the games. On YouTube, fans made funny videos, theories, and reactions. On Instagram, the pink guard costumes and green tracksuits became super popular. Everyone wanted to dress like the characters, especially for Halloween. Cafes made the honeycomb candy from the show. Schools had themed days. Even young kids, who weren't supposed to watch it, were pretending to play the games at recess. The actors became superstars almost overnight. Lee Young-jae, who played the main character Ji-hun, had already acted in many Korean films. But now, people from Hollywood and all around the world wanted to work with him. Young Ho-yeon, the woman who played Se Byok, was actually a model before the show. Squid Game was her first time acting. But she was so good that people everywhere loved her character. Her Instagram followers grew from less than 1 million to over 20 million in just a few weeks. That had never happened before. And the old man, player 001, his real name is Oh Yang-soo, became a legend. He won a very big acting award in the United States, something no Korean actor had done before. Behind the scenes, the work to make the show was intense. Some things that looked like special effects were actually real. The colorful stairs were real. The big creepy doll from Red Light, Green Light was real too, more than 3 meters tall, with eyes that could really move. For the glass bridge scene, the actors had to walk on actual platforms above the ground. Of course, it was safe, but they were still high enough to make the actors nervous. One of them said he felt frozen in place, like he was really afraid to fall. In the marble game episode, the set looked like an old Korean neighborhood from the 1980s. The houses, the doors, the lights, everything was made with care to feel real and full of emotion. One actor said it reminded him of his childhood. And when they filmed the scenes where characters had to die, the mood on set was very quiet. After filming those sad parts, the crew and actors would often sit together, eat a meal, and support each other. They had become like a little family. Even the masks caused trouble. The guards in the show wore full pink suits with black masks that had circles, triangles, or squares. But the actors inside those suits couldn't see very well. Some of them bumped into doors and walls. They laughed about it later, but during filming, it made the work harder. The director, Hwang Dong-hyuk, was also under a lot of pressure. He had written and directed every episode himself. He wanted it to be perfect. And because of the stress, he actually lost several teeth during production. But he still smiled when people asked him how he felt. He said it was all worth it, because he had finally shared his story with the world. Fans wanted more. They asked the big question, will there be a season 2? At first, Hwang wasn't sure. He was tired. He said that writing the first season took everything he had. But after millions of fans kept asking, he finally said yes, season 2 was coming. He also said that Ji-hun would return, but this time he would be different. In the first season, he was just trying to survive. In the next, he would take action. He would try to stop the people behind the game. And we would learn more about the front man, the mysterious man in the black mask who controlled everything. In interviews, Hwang often said the same thing. He said Squid Game is not really about killing. It's about living. It's about how hard it is to live in a world where money decides everything. It's about how people become cruel, or kind, or clever, or lost, depending on the choices they make. He said that when people are pushed too far, they can do terrible things. But they can also do beautiful things. And that's what the show is about. That's why teachers used it in classrooms. That's why students wrote essays about it. That's why families talked about it around the table. It was more than just entertainment. It made people think. And all of this, from a little show that nobody wanted back in 2009. 10 years of waiting. One story. And the whole world listened. Part 3, After the Game. After Squid Game became the most watched show on Netflix, life changed for everyone involved. The actors, the director, and even the crew were suddenly known across the world. They were invited to TV shows, award ceremonies, and film festivals. Reporters wanted to talk to them. Fans waited outside events, asking for autographs and selfies. The world had fallen in love with a show that, just a few years earlier, no one wanted to make. For director Hwang Dong-hyuk, the change was huge. He had lived many years in a small apartment. He had worked hard on quiet films that didn't make much money. And now, suddenly, he was one of the most famous directors in the world. He gave interviews in English, went to Hollywood events, and walked red carpets. But even then, he stayed calm and kind. In interviews, he often smiled and said, "I just wanted to tell a story." And it wasn't just his life that changed. The success of Squid Game made people all over the world more interested in Korean culture. More people started watching Korean dramas, listening to Korean music, and learning about Korean food. People searched online for the meanings of Korean words from the show. Even traditional games like dokji and tug-of-war became popular again. Parents played them with their kids. Teachers used them in schools. Some students even wrote school papers about the show and its meaning. In the fashion world, things also changed. Big brands asked Jung Ho-yeon, the actress who played Se Byeok, to model for them. She appeared in fashion shows and magazines in Paris, New York, and Milan. She had been a model before, but now she was a global star. Her life had taken a completely new path. The show also changed Halloween. That year, millions of people wore the green tracksuits, the red guard suits, and the scary round-eyed masks. Some even dressed up as the big creepy doll from Red Light, Green Light. Costume shops couldn't keep up with the orders. It was the most popular Halloween look in many countries. Children, teenagers, adults, everyone wanted to be a part of the Squid Game world. But not everything was fun and games. One person in Korea said their phone number was shown by mistake in the show. After the show aired, they received thousands of calls from people pretending to be in the game. It became a real problem. Netflix later edited the number from the scene, and they offered help to the person who owned the phone. Netflix also announced that they were going to create a real-life Squid Game, but without the danger, of course. They made a game show where real people could play safe versions of the games for prize money. There were no guns, no scary guards, no one was hurt, just competition, fun, and excitement. The show got lots of viewers, but some fans said, "It's not the same." Because in the original Squid Game, the story and the message were just as important as the games. Back in Korea, many people were proud of Squid Game. It had put Korean storytelling on the global map. It showed that stories in Korean, with Korean actors and Korean culture, could become world famous. It opened doors for other Korean shows to be made and shared around the world. But some people in Korea also said something important. They said, "Yes, we are proud. But remember, this show is about how hard life is for some people. It shows our problems, not just our success." It was true. Squid Game was not a happy story. It was about people who were desperate, people who were suffering. And that's why it was so powerful. When award season arrived, Squid Game made history again. The show won big prizes at the Emmy Awards, the biggest TV awards in the United States. Lee Young-jae won Best Actor, and Hwang Dong-hyuk won Best Director. That had never happened before for a non-English language show. When Hwang gave his speech, he said he had written the story alone, in a small room, just trying to survive. Now, here he was, standing in front of the whole world. He said, "This is just the beginning." So what happened after that? Well, fans kept waiting, and asking, for season 2. Hwang said yes, he was working on it. But it would take time. He didn't want to rush. He said, "I want season 2 to be even better. It will have more surprises. Ji-hun will return. And we will learn more about the people behind the game." He also said he had ideas for a 3rd season. He was thinking big. But he wanted to be careful. He didn't want to make Squid Game just for money or fame. He wanted the story to be strong and honest. That's what made the 1st season so special. What can we learn from the story of Squid Game? Maybe this: sometimes, the world is not ready for your story. But that doesn't mean the story is bad. It just means you have to wait. Hwang waited more than 10 years. He was rejected again and again. He was poor. He was tired. He almost gave up. But he didn't. He kept believing in his idea. And one day, the right time came. And the whole world listened. And we can learn something else too: you don't need a big budget or fancy effects to make something amazing. What you really need is a story that feels true. A story that touches the heart. Squid Game did that. It made people feel. It made people talk. And it made people think. It was a story about a game, but not just any game. It was the game of life, played by people who were hurting, people who were hoping, and people who were human. And in the end, that's what makes a story great. Thank you for listening to this story. If you liked it, write about it in the comments and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new stories.